Now, in AP World, I told you there were three big sections that you had to know that were the most important. The first was developments in East Asia. Now we're going to be on to the second part, which is developments in Dar al-Islam. Welcome to Frickin' History. If you are looking for a 3, a 4, or a 5 on your AP World, AP Euro, or APUSH exam, I'm the guy to see. So this guy is a monster, all right? This is 1.2 in AP World, so let's talk a little bit. We'll break it up into a couple of pieces so it's a little bit more palatable. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is Dar al-Islam literally means the house of Islam. So we are talking about the beginning of these Islamic-based empires, and let's get started here in just a second. Now, you want to know some of the causes and the effects of these Islamic-based empires and what happened to them over time. And the first one you need to know is the Abbasid Caliphate. Now, the Abbasid Caliphate started around 750, and it actually didn't fall until 1258 with the Mongols, but we're not there yet. One of the big things is it started to fragment, and the way that it did that is because different governors started to take more autonomy. Even though they pledged to Baghdad their loyalty, it started to break it up into pieces, and anytime that happens, it's going to make it susceptible to be taken over. Now, with the word caliphate, that comes from caliph, and the caliph is going to be known as the leader, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's a little bit different than the Sultanate, so keep that in mind in these Islamic-based empires. But the Abbasid Caliphate is they are run by Arabs, they are Persians, okay? Which is going to take a little bit different turn as we go into the next piece, which is the Seljuk Turks. Let's talk about that. Now, these are Turkish people, not Arabs, that started to take over these different areas like Turkey, Iran, in the Iraq, Syria area. That's kind of the area of the world that we're talking about here. And they were actually brought in by the Abbasids as hired soldiers. Well, the Seljuks, again, seeing that there is a vacuum of power and there's a fragmentation of the Abbasid, it made it for an easier way to start taking some of their empire. So the Seljuk Turks were hired military men, so they were more of military type leaders. But they spread Islam through the building of schools, which they called a madras. So they also built hospitals, and these are different kinds of things where it helped spread the idea of Islam. Now, this one is actually outside of what would be considered the Middle East and over into what would be the northern part of South Asia. Now, this is the Delhi Sultanate, and this one you need to know. They ruled parts of India between the 13th and the 16th century, eventually heeding way to the Mughals. Now, here's the deal. The Delhi Sultanate was an Islamic-based empire, and we talked about them because they were trying to convert more of India and their Hindu population into Islam, but they knew that they could be taken over, hence that we had the Vijayanagar. We talked about in South and Southeast Asia. Now, the reason why the Delhi Sultanate is so huge is because that Muslim influence in that northern part of India is something that we are going to talk about continually through the Mughals and even into the 20th century when we get to the partition of India. So you got to keep that one in mind. That's where the Muslim influence is, and that's where they were set up. Now, finally, in Spain, the Al-Andalus area. This was Muslims in Spain. Now, there was some religious tolerance during this time period in this era. Christians and Muslims and Jews were all living together. However, by the 11th century, 75% of the area was Muslim. That eventually led into some frustrations, especially with the Christians. And then it was a slow Christian takeover by, like the 1213, and it continued up until King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella in the late 1400s. So that's a process that happens over time. But prior to, there's a lot of influence with Muslims and Jews and Christians all in that area of Spain. Now, that's the political side. Those are some of the things that you need to know. We're going to hit some of the other ones because, like I said, this one's a monster, and you're going to need to know it. Now you know your freaking history.